Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, and today I've got a very sensitive topic. It's around how does sexual trauma affect your relationship? And this is a very emotive topic and one that's very close to my heart. So I've got a very special guest. Her name is Danielle Shea. She's a healing coach for sexual assault survivors and lived experience. So welcome very much to you, Danielle.
Hi, Lyn. So happy to be here. Thank you.
It's it is a very emotive topic, this one, isn't it? And certainly I can relate to myself. So what is it that got you involved in this particular niche? And tell the audience a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first, I just like to say, we always find each other, right? Those of us who've experienced this type of trauma, I find that we are connected on some deep kind of level. And so I'm happy to be speaking with you, and we always find each other. So yeah, I kind of got here in a very interesting way. Life takes you all kinds of ways. I did not go to school for this. This is something that I started on my own and got training on my own. And thank goodness for the way that education can be consumed in this day and age. And so really how I got here was I just kind of got this download one day of it was time to tell my story. And I rejected it. I really did. I said, nope, hell no, we're not doing that. I'm not. Who am I to speak up? Who am I to help people work through this? Like, what did I even do? And then I just sat with that and sat with that fear, sat with that imposter syndrome and went, look, I'm a lived experience expert. Who better to help people walk this path of healing from sexual trauma than someone who's been there themselves? And so from there, I got a whole bunch of certificates, counseling for sexual abuse survivor, trauma-informed coach, yada, 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 and created my program, Thrivers Academy. And now I help people all around the world build healthy boundaries, develop unwavering confidence, develop trust in themselves so that they can live a joyful and fulfilled life.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, I was born in 1960, so I'm 64 now, but I can sort of say hand on heart, when I was a teenager and I went through this, and which was like in the 70s, so to speak, children were taught in those days to be seen and not heard. So I never voiced what happened to me until I was 42 years old. So what was your experience around, being able to speak about it?
Yeah, and I just want to honor the fact that you were able to recognize as well what the societal kind of norms were at the time that you experienced your trauma. And that keeps a lot of people from not telling them. I have so many of my clients who I'm the first person that they've told, and it happened decades ago, whether it happened as a child or a teenager or what have you. And it's not even society too. It's the type of manipulation and the power dynamic and everything that goes into experiencing that kind of trauma, which keeps you small and it keeps you fearful. If I speak up, is this going to happen again? Is something worse going to happen? Right? Because now you know that something terrible can happen to you, right? And so your brain, it just keeps going, okay, how do I keep myself safe? And sometimes that's shut down, isolate. And so for me, I had a really, really privileged trauma healing experience because I had a great support system. And in fact, I didn't know what happened to me. I woke up from a party and was in someone's bed and was like, what is going on here? And I thought it was my fault. And so it wasn't until I started telling people like, oh my gosh, I screwed up so badly that they went, no, Danielle, I don't think so. And so then they would ask for the story, and then other people would tell me and say, Danielle, that's sexual abuse. Like that, like someone had sex with you without your consent, right? And so I had people telling me what happened to me. And it started because I wasn't aware that someone took advantage of me. I thought that I was in the wrong. And so from there, I was able to, reach out and get support. And it took a really long time to even get to that point, right? We're saying it in about 20 seconds, but it took months to get there. And then even to get the support. And I just had people who loved me so much who are willing to say, I believe you.
So was there any legal justice in the sense of, did this get reported in your case or not?
Yeah, it did. And so it took a while, right? Because again, I had to be educated on what had happened to me. And so I was in college at the time, and I went to the college police department, which ended up being connected to the actual county police department, filed a report with the school. And honestly, that entire experience was so traumatizing because you have to tell your story again. People are walking on eggshells around you, which is helpful. And also you feel like, why are you afraid of me? Like I didn't do anything. Like I'm the one who got hurt here. Why are you afraid of me? And that's kind of what it feels like, even though I'm sure they're doing it more from an empathetic standpoint and they want you to feel comfortable and safe. But so much of that, I just felt like an animal that people were afraid of. They're like, oh my gosh, here's a woman with a voice. Here's someone who's actually coming forward and speaking up on what had happened. And ultimately, we got to the point where it was going to be too traumatizing for me to be able to keep going. And at the same time, where the police decided there was nothing that they could do, because they needed his consent to be able to bring him in and question him and do things like that. And there was a lot of distrust that built for me in the justice system there, like there is for many survivors.
Absolutely. And do you know what? Even though I didn't report it, I do believe in karma, and I do believe, that the universe, higher power, God, whatever you believe in, delivers its own justice in our perpetrator's lifetime. So that then empowers us to live our best life, doesn't it?
100%, right? And I think that that type of faith or belief or whatever you call it can be so incredibly healing, and just like, hey, okay, I can't do this, but I did as much as I could to move this forward, and I have to let it be where it is. And you ultimately, what I always tell my clients is you have to do what's right for you. If you never want to report, that's what's right for you, right? Like you have to take care of yourself first. You have to rebuild that trust with yourself. You have to rebuild that sense of security and safety within yourself. And so if you keep doing things that are poking that sense of security, we don't want you to lose that. But for other people, becoming an advocate right away or going into, the justice system right away, that's what's healing for them. And so you have to kind of balance that. Where are your values? Where do you feel safe? And what's going to help you in this moment? And it might change tomorrow. Tomorrow you might change your mind, which you always have the ability to do. If you say yes or if you say no, you always have the ability to change your mind.
Absolutely.
And just knowing that you have that power.
So for you, in terms of how your trauma affected your relationships, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it affected every relationship, especially the relationship with yourself. That one, I think, is something that we don't discuss enough, where this type of trauma, it happens not because of desire, it happens because of a power dynamic, because of manipulation. And it's such an insidious trauma because it gets in your head and it makes you question everything and everyone and every decision you've ever made, right? Because oftentimes we have a really hard time wrapping our heads around, well, like, how could this not be my fault?
Yes.
And so it's rebuilding that relationship and that trust with yourself. And so that starts with getting help, reaching out, getting support. And for those of you who are like, I can't afford that or I can't do that, you listening to this podcast, that's you getting support.
Absolutely.
Some of my best mentors, they have no idea I exist because I read their books or listened to their YouTube or listened to their podcast. So you reaching out and getting support and just having other people champion you if that feels, safe, and identifying who are the people who can do that for you in your life. And so oftentimes we self-isolate during this trauma, and self-isolation can be very helpful when you are doing healthy reflection, when you are taking time to care for yourself, and you have to balance, okay, when am I doing this in a healthy manner, and when am I doing this to try to hide away from the world and try to keep myself in a corner because I don't think that I deserve to even be out into the world. And then also that balance of, who can I trust? Are there people in my life who are going to say the most important words, which are, I believe you? And so with my clients, we have different various things that we do to kind of be able to identify those people and identify that with yourself. But then your other question, which is how does this affect your relationships? Is it definitely affects your relationships with other people, not only in your trust, but in how you perceive that you need to be loved, right? And so when I was going through my own deep healing, I dated all of the people all at once. And I was very sexually active, which is one thing that can happen after this trauma. Or you can, again, hermit and not want anything or anyone to touch you or even look at you. So I went to one very extreme of the spectrum, and I dated everybody all at the same time. But I dated people who called me dumb. I dated people who were just emotionally abusive because I believed that I was the worst thing to ever exist on this planet now. I must be for someone to do something like this to me. I must mean nothing. And so I made a lot of choices and decisions in my coping mechanisms that ended up being destructive mechanisms, right? To prove to myself that those inner thoughts were true.
I did something very similar. I went through a very promiscuous phase, and literally, I think a lot of girls that have been through it, that sort of trauma, do that. And I look at it back at it now, and I'm thinking, yeah, that little girl was hurt, but she was looking for love in her own way, and she thought that she would get that through sex.
Looking for love and looking for power, right?
Yeah.
There was a little piece of me that went, well, if someone can hurt me, then am I not capable of hurting others? And there's this okay, well, if I can get someone to want to have sex with me, and then I can just not get emotionally attached, then there's some kind of power in that, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting what you will do in order to try to reclaim those pieces of you. And it's either through numbing or it's through, trying to find that power in any kind of way. So it's love, but it's also that confidence, that power, that sense of control.
Yeah, absolutely. Because your world is in chaos, and you need that stability and that certainty. And that's one way you can sort of, I suppose, have a bit of control in your life. Like I remember definitely going through that phase.
Yeah.
And then going through something totally the opposite, because then in my mid-20s, I met my now ex-husband, but he's, a lovely, good man, felt very safe and secure with him. Hence, I now know the reason why I chose that guy. But a lovely guy who I now know I chose because I felt safe and secure with him. But also within that relationship, I was very confused, and quite often the other way, cold, frigid even.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting. And I'd actually like to talk about this a little bit because my long-term partner, who I was with for almost 9 years, was also someone who made me feel very safe, said all the right things at the beginning of the relationship that I needed to hear at that time, but from a place that was so caring and so genuine, right? Not saying all the right things just to get in my pants, which is what most of the other people were doing at the time. He genuinely cared about me, and we were really, really good friends. And we dated for such a long time, and it was such a beautiful relationship. But there was parts of that relationship where I was, I guess, not cold necessarily, but not as promiscuous, right? There's just moments where I went, there was just a different kind of healing that happened in that relationship. And it wasn't something that was necessarily sexual of any kind.
I don't
And
think
I
I
was,
initiated sex in that relationship, other
yeah,
than when I'd really, almost in the last few years before we actually separated, and I was with him for 23 years altogether, that I actually got the confidence to do that.
yes, 100%. And I just love that you're saying that because this is something I needed to hear today too. Love it. Thank you, Lyn. But yeah, it's such a real experience, and you can experience that at various different points in your healing journey, right? And we are always going to heal, we're always going to evolve. And so it's recognizing, like, when you feel safe, okay, well then what else am I doing? What other habits are coming up that might still be triggered or reflective of this trauma that I experienced? And I think that that is a really big one right there.
Yeah. And I realized as well that I've lived most of my adult life on high alert without realizing, that I was ultra sensitive to energy. And you just know, don't you? I think automatically, if you've been through those sorts of types of trauma, who energetically you feel safe around. And there's guys, that I've automatically, and I've never known who they are in terms of they're strangers, but I could automatically pick up that this guy's not safe.
Yeah. hmm I think we're talking gendered right now too, but it's true for all people, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
but I suppose if you've been hurt and been through trauma at the hands of men specifically, then you're going to be more, I suppose,
Hyper
alert,
aware.
yeah, and
hmm
more aware around the energy that a man exudes. And there are definitely men that I would never get in a car with, for example, because one of my situations did happen in a car with somebody who I trusted,
Yeah.
and I had one of my neighbors once offer me a lift and thought, no, I
Yeah.
just had that, automatic, no, I don't feel safe with this guy. And he was one of my neighbors and he was perfectly nice and amicable. But I just felt, this energy is telling me no.
Yeah. There's two things I'd like to point out. So one of them is going to be boundaries. So let's not forget that. But one thing that you said one of my assaults happened in a car. And I just want everyone listening to know that even if it's happened to you multiple times, again, like, that is not your fault. Because I am also someone that has been assaulted and abused multiple times. And while it's not your fault, it is your responsibility to heal.
Mm.
And there are steps, and healing is possible, and you can do it. And this is coming from two people who's experienced this abuse who have, and maybe not healed fully, because I don't know that anyone ever is.
No, I
From
think
anything in life,
regardless of
we're
what you've been
always,
through in life, I think we're always on
yeah,
that journey, aren't we, to keep
yeah,
improving and keep learning and keep understanding.
yeah. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that that's so important for people to hear, that it can happen multiple times. Often it's happened multiple times and you don't realize till you're in your healing journey. There are some things that I experienced that I went, oh, that's what that was. That's why I was in high alert and, had
Mm,
such a visceral reaction to that, because it actually was in fact abuse. Yeah. And then
absolutely.
the other thing, sorry, go ahead.
So no, carry on.
And then the other thing that you were talking about was, that energy of just like, no. It's understanding your boundaries. What are the boundaries? And sometimes I think we need to write those down. We need to say, okay, this I'm not cool with, that I'm not cool with. And that way you can have those boundaries in your back pocket. But I often find that boundaries actually show up for us in those moments that you were just speaking about, Lyn.
Mm,
In the Someone's offering something and you feel your body react in a certain way, and then you listen to it. That's how you really create those boundaries, is you say no
yes,
when your body says no.
absolutely. Because I could have met, another neighbor, a male neighbor, and been perfectly fine with getting in the car with him. It wasn't just because he was offering me a lift in the car. It was just the literally listening to my body saying, no, this doesn't
Yeah.
feel right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
there might be for some, maybe at some point in your life, you said, I'm not taking lifts from anyone. And that was the boundary. And then it's your boundary because when you felt safer and you felt more clear on who you could trust, then your boundaries may have evolved. And then it was, okay, now it's just from certain people.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's also important to stress that not to label ourselves as victims, because we're not victims, we're survivors of this. And I think the very label of giving somebody that victim can actually be a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, and not help our healing journey at all.
1,000,000%. And I actually even reject the word survivor. I use it because social media marketing, that's how people find us, right?
Yes.
We have to be where the people are. But yeah, it's something that you evolve with. So you might feel as though you're a victim. And then how do you transition out of that into survivor? And then how do you transition out of that into thriver? And that's my whole spiel is how do I help people go from survivor to thriver?
Yes.
And it's changing that mindset, changing that perspective, because your trauma is not your identity. It doesn't need to keep you small. It doesn't need to keep you with a certain mindset. You can grow and evolve from that. It's something that is informative. It's data for you to be able to say, okay, here's a boundary I need to set. Here's where I feel safe. Here's where I don't. Here's how I build my self-awareness in this new way, in this healing. But it's not something that needs to put you in a box. I have a friend who is a Navy psychologist, and she and I talk about very similar things, but I use it as tools and she uses it as a diagnosis. And she says, a diagnosis is used for two things: to be able to inform us on what kind of treatment might be supportive of you, and to bill insurance. That's it. And she says, you aren't going to fit right into that diagnosis box. And because of that, it's just a piece of information to allow us to inform ourselves on what might be supportive for you at this time. And the same is true for tools or for labels. So victim might be something that's supportive of you, and then throw it away when it's not. Survivor might be something that's supportive for you, and then throw it away when it's not. You use a tool up until the point that it actually stops working for you.
Yeah, and I do feel that it's important on our healing journey to know that we have the power to take our power back. And if we allow our perpetrators to negatively impact our lives, then we have to take some responsibility for that, because we don't need to allow that. We can take our power back. Trust that, as I say, whatever justice is going to be dealt with them, whether it's legally or otherwise, will be done. And then you can trust that you can live a successful life without allowing any perpetrator to have the power to negatively impact your life going forward.
Can I get a hell yeah from the audience? Yes.
Yeah. It's I see it so much, where people talk as though they're powerless, and it's not because they want to be. It's because we're not educated around this stuff, are we? We're not parented around this stuff, and certainly, when it comes to having healthy relationships, even regardless of whether you've previously been through any sort of trauma, nobody teaches us this. So we don't know what we don't know until we do.
Yeah, beautifully put. And yeah, feeling powerless, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, those are all things that every single survivor feels. And the beautiful thing that I think I want people to really take away from this is that healing is possible. And I hope that you see the potential in the conversation that we're having today. Lyn and I, we're not balking at this conversation. We're not, our emotions are calm because we've dealt with it and we've worked through it. And so we're able to have this conversation in a confident, powerful way. Where before, I'm sure there was times where we would not be able to even speak about this.
No,
and
certainly
many people
for me,
don't.
for quite a few decades. Even in my marriage, my husband didn't know, until I was 42.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting that it made sort of more sense to him once he did know, that he realized probably why I was like I was in the bedroom in terms of not initiating stuff.
Yeah.
Although we did have a healthy-ish sex life, it's just that, I was quite reserved. And it sort
Yeah.
of makes me smile when I think about how I was previously when I went through that promiscuous phase. I was the opposite.
Yep. Me too. Me too. And we change and we evolve and we grow. And that's beautiful. And in fact, required for life.
Yeah. So interesting, isn't it, to be able to connect the dots? It's always in hindsight, isn't it? You sort of think, well,
Yeah.
now I know why, I
Yeah.
was like that in that phase of my life. So
But
for
we
you,
need that too,
yeah.
right? And self-reflection is so incredibly important. And so I really encourage people to journal. And I know that journaling is like this hot topic right now and everybody's talking about it, but it's because it works, right? The tools that are everyone's talking about, it's because they work. And so journaling is this really beautiful modality for you to just have a safe space with yourself. No one has to see it. And then either using prompts or just free writing how you feel. And you might have 3 pages of you just complaining at you. And then you might get to a point where you get all of that out and now it's out of your body. And so now you can move through it in a different way. And then you can look at your journal and you can go, is any of this true? Or you can have that aha moment of, oh, that's why I'm behaving this way. Okay, now I know. And so now I can do something about it. But we often feel very disconnected from our bodies, disconnected from our souls and our minds because we're not taking the time to do that reflection because it feels scary. What am I going to find out? What demons are going to come up? What if I don't like what I discover about myself? And that keeps us from not trusting ourselves. It keeps us from moving forward and developing our self-awareness and developing our healing. And so when you allow yourself to sit and journal, and you can, burn it in a safe way, but burn it if you really don't want anybody to see it. And then just work through it. Free write, allow all of the emotions to come out, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to rip pages, scribble all over it, allow those emotions to come out, because you'll find at the other end, what happens is you get clarity. And you might not have this huge epiphany moment, but you might just get a small nugget of, oh, okay, I get it. Or heck, yesterday I journaled and I had to stop because I was like, where am I even going with this? I don't know. But I got enough out that I was able to then move forward with, being productive in my day. Where before I was just like a little gremlin.
That's a great tip. I love that. And I certainly advise that with within my own coaching practice as well. So thank you for sharing that. So Danielle, what is the best contact information for people if they want to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, I love when people reach out to me on Instagram. That's where I find lots of my clients, as they'll slide into my DMs and tell me their stories. So on Instagram, you can find me at Danielle Shea Blog. That's DanielleSheablog.
Excellent. And thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences and your words of wisdom around this very emotive topic, like we said at the start, that, any sort of trauma, whether it's sexual or otherwise, can obviously impact our relationships. And certainly, when it's sexual trauma, it can certainly massively impact our intimate relationships, can't it?
Yes, it can. It affects every aspect of our lives. And I just want to thank you, Lyn, for creating a safe space for us to be able to have this conversation and being willing to have this conversation, because it's definitely the taboo of the taboo. But the more that we shed light on it, the more that we express like, hey, I've been there too. I think the more permission that we give other people to heal and to work through this as well. So I'm so honored to have been here and for your time. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I will invite Danielle again to share in other episodes going forward. So if you enjoyed this one, then hopefully we can look forward to having many more conversations together.
I would love that.
Okay, so it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.